Vela. I am the founder of the School of Digital, and this is our first online free class for all of you guys. So, look, we are just starting with this channel, so I'm not expecting a lot of activity today, but this is just the very beginning of a long story that we want to tell. The story of entrepreneurship in COVID times. And this particular episode, this particular free class is about branding. Now, the reason why this is the first topic is because in my perspective as the founder of the School of Digital, our students need to be exposed to this particular kind of knowledge starting the courses. Now, the reason why branding is critical to me is because my businesses have been able to survive, have been able to start, have been able to get people talking about them because of the branding that I have done for them. So I want to share that experience today with you guys. I want to tell you how to develop a brand, how to start a brand, how to get the real most effective name that you need for your new business. All right, so welcome, and if you have any questions, please, if you have any comments, please use the chat and I will try my best to answer any of your questions. Okay, so yes, let's start with branding and why branding is important. We are living in an economy that is all about attention. If people doesn't know what is the name of your business, if people don't know, don't realize what is your own name, then you are in troubles. You don't have then an identity. And guys, the reason why an identity is so important is because if we don't have an identity, you know what will happen? People will define you instead. And you don't want that. You don't want people to define who you are. You know, you want people to listen who you are. So that is something that is extremely important. I want you guys to have your own identity so people do not define who you are. All right. So let's talk about the first element of the branding component. The first element of a branding component is the brand name. All right. So the brand name is how people will refer to you when they describe your company. So the brand element called brand name is the step number one in branding. Is the step number one in branding. You want to get a name that represents your brand to best advantage. All right, I'm going to repeat this. You need to find a name that will represent your brand to best advantage. What does it mean? What does it mean to best advantage? It means that people will be able to recall your name. It means that people will recall your name. It means that people will remember your name. So, in my particular case with this business, the brand name is School of Digital. That's simple. School of Digital. I think seriously that people will be able to remember that name in a very easy way. Why? Because it's different, but also because it's very simple to remember. I have developed on top of that brand name an icon, and that icon is SOT, which is what you can see in the screen. So I have an icon, and that icon in my particular case is SOT. And this icon is what I use in social media. This icon is what I use in Instagram and in YouTube. But the brand name is a School of Digital. So it is important to have this combination when you develop branding for your startup. It is important that you have a brand name, how it sounds, you know, when people refer to you. That is very important. But it's also very important to have an icon, some people call this a logo, but it's not a logo anymore. It's much simpler than that. So logo types right now are not that needed, and I'm going to tell you why. Because social media changed the game. Social media is asking for very simple, very flat representations of your graphic identity. Social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, when you create a profile, a business profile for your brand, they will ask you, hey, give me your icon or give me your logo. What does it mean? That you need to provide a very simple graphic that will represent your brand name to best advantage. So in my case, that icon is, SOD or SOD, very simple to recall as well, and is representing the name of my business, which is School of Digital. So far, what have we learned in this free class? That for branding to happen, so far, you need to have two elements in place. Number one, branding name. Number two, the icon. All right? But that is not enough. You need to add a little bit more to it. And what is that little extra to it? Guys, that is the slogan. That is the slogan that represents your business. All right? So, in my case, is how to start your first business. So, School of Digital, how to start your first business. Your first business. That is the core of my slogan. So, try to find out a song that you can condense in a sentence. A story that you can condense in a sentence that represents your brand. And that is the slogan. In the case of Nike, for example, which is a very well-known brand exercise, the exercise is like this. So for Nike, you have the brand name, and that brand name is Nike. But you also have an icon. And what is that icon? The tick. And what is the slogan? Just do it. You see how simple it is? So, what I'm trying to get you across today is that for your startup to operate in a market, you want to have an identity. You don't want people to define who you are. You want an identity. And that identity is the result of these three things. The brand name first, the icon, and also the slogan. All right, there is something important here as well for you to understand. As you advance with your company, as people get to know you, as you become famous or well known in a particular industry, these first things, the brand name, eventually is not needed anymore. This slogan that is supporting your branding eventually is not needed anymore. So what is remaining? The icon. So this icon that represents Nike is what people, when the brand is mature enough, will need in order to associate an idea, a product, an event, and a sponsorship with your branding. So be very cautious about the design of that icon. All right? So far so good, guys. Eh? We have a free class, which is something that I'm going to be doing every single day, Monday to Fridays, 6 p.m. A free class for people to know what to expect when they subscribe to one of the programs offered by the School of Digital. We have two programs. One of the programs is the incubator program, 8 weeks, $400, 8 weeks, 8 classes. And we have a more advanced program, which is called the accelerator. What is the difference between the two programs? One program is for people that have never done a business, so it's to create the first business. That is the incubator, very simple program, but very effective though. My promise is that you finish the incubator with a startup ready to operate. And the other program, the accelerator, is a program for startups, for companies, for brands that are already in the market. And the promise is that at the end of the 2 months, because this is a 2 months program too, you will sell more. You will sell more, which is very important in these times, especially for cash flow purposes. All right, so these free classes are intended for you guys to know what to expect in the paid classes. So these free classes are just, you know, a testing, a very little window for you to see what could happen in the real paid class. In the paid class, I am giving you mentorship in your business or about your business. So it's much more personalized. The free classes are general classes about a particular topic, okay? So thank you for allowing me to explain this to you. Now, let's get back to the topic. Let's get back to the topic of branding. How to brand and start up in COVID-19 times. How to brand and start up in COVID-19 times. So now we know. Now we know that we need to have these 3 elements in order. And we need to be confident that we have done a good job. So the 3 elements are the brand name, the brand icon, and the brand slogan. Those are the 3 elements. Now, let's talk how to choose them properly, how to develop them properly, all right? So allow me to switch to my whiteboard for me to better explain this, all right? So in terms of the brand name, what is really critical, what is really important here is that that brand name is available in a website like GoDaddy. I use GoDaddy. In other words, what is really critical here is that the domain name, the www.schoolofdigital.com or .com.au, depending on the market that you want, is available. If the domain name is not available, then you cannot use it. Seriously, it's just a waste of time. In these COVID-19 times, you need to be super effective in terms of what you do. So you need to make sure that the name is available. I was talking this morning about a business with a colleague of mine, and he was telling me, hey, the new business I will have is called Fauto. All right. And I was, wow, Mike, that's a really good name. I love it. Yeah, because it's a financial company about automotive, about cars. And I was like, wow, of course, it makes sense. Fauto. All right? And then the conversation ended. What I did at the end of the conversation, I went to GoDaddy and I checked Fauto. Fauto.com, fauto.com.au, and guess what? Obviously, they bought it. They bought that domain name. Why? Because it was available at the time they bought it. But imagine if they just gathered, you know, my colleague with his partners, and then they go and they say, yes, let's call the company Fauto. Such a good name, beautiful. Let's check it out. Let's go to GoDaddy. Wow, no good news. Somebody took it. Not a good name. Unless you are willing to pay for whatever amount of money, you know, the person that is owning that domain name is charging, unless you are able to pay for that money, which could be anything between $100 up to $75,000 or even millions, depending on the name. Unless you are willing to pay for that, you need to find a different brand name, guys. So that is something that is important. It's not just about coming up with a catchy name. That's half of the job. What you guys need to do as well is you need to make sure that unique name, that idea that you have came up with is free, is available in GoDaddy. If it's not free, it's because someone bought it. And you know what will happen if you insist in having that brand? That in the future, if you position that brand, that person can take advantage of that positioning by developing a website that somehow mimics the job that you do. And the market will get confused. And eventually, a portion of that market, 50-60% that are confused, they will go with that person that bought just the domain name. You did the whole job in order to position that brand in the market, and the other person is eating the lunch that you just cook. Don't allow that to happen. So, first advice, very important to you guys. Very important to you guys, those of you who are just starting with a business. If you are looking for a brand name, yes, of course, has to be catchy. Of course, has to be unique. Of course, somehow has to be orientated to what you do. Of course, all right? All of that, that's something that we all know, all right? But make sure the domain name is available in one of these websites that are for people like you and I to buy domains. What is the cost of a domain name, you may ask? Well, if a domain name, again, a domain name is the name of a website, is the www.schoolofdigital.com.au. That's the domain name. If the domain name is available, you will have to pay something between $10 to $20, all right? So it's very, very cheap for a period of 1 to 2 years. It's not a big investment. But once you own it, you can sell that domain for whatever. That is one of the first things that will add value to your brand, to your new business. As far as you have a domain name associated with it, from that very moment, your business, that in terms of valuation was zero, from that moment on, you have a value on it. The value of that domain name that your business has. And that value for some people could be millions. Seriously. Imagine, for example, this company, Monday.com. Monday.com is a company in Israel. And this company in Israel is about helping people to schedule events and the calendars and the workflow. It's a project management website. Helps people with project management. A competitor will be, I don't know, Trello or Asana or one of those. All right. But Monday.com is such a good website. Check it out. Now, that domain name, Monday.com, imagine the value of it. So, if you want to call your business Monday, what will happen? People will search for it. Where they will end? In Monday.com, which is a website that does not represent your business to best advantage. So do not do that. Now, the owners of Monday.com, I don't know, probably they never bought that original domain name Monday.com, but I can tell you they paid thousands, if not millions, for that domain. This is if they didn't own it before. All right? So the importance of the domain name is core, is critical, is of paramount importance. So the process again, go talk to, your consultants, your team, yourself, your spouse, your wife. All right, this is our name. This is the name for our new startup. Beautiful. It's good that you have it, but you need to test it. How do you test it? By going to GoDaddy. By making sure that that domain is available in a website like GoDaddy. If you want to use crazy domains or any other, I don't care. But find a website where you can find out if that domain is available. Now, a little bit of advice to you. If that domain name is available, have your credit card next to you. and buy it. Don't allow time to, because what will happen is that someone may buy it before you. A lot of people is connected to the websites that are selling domains, or to social media that somehow is telling people what domain you are about to buy. I don't know, because you comment about it, because you told someone, because you shared it by email. Don't allow that to happen. Make sure that as soon as you find a domain name that is available, buy it. Later on, if you don't need it, $20, $10 that you didn't use in the right way, but you can sell it, or just can't forget about it if you change your mind in terms of your branding. But be careful with it. Make sure that you own that domain name. All right? So that is important. Another thing that is very important, I'm going to share my screen for a second. Another thing that is important is to define if that domain name should have a termination.com or should have a termination.com.au. So it's very important in these live streaming events, in these live streaming classes like this one that I'm doing right now, that you guys get the best of it. And one of the best or the most important parts of this very live streaming class is to understand when you need a domain with .com or when you need a domain with .com.au. Now, of course, there are many other domains like .net, but those .club, but those domain names, they don't have the capability of ranking that a .com.au may have, the capability for ranking. All right, so be aware of it, because not all domains are equal to Google. Those ones, .com.au, are very easy for Google to reach, to allocate to a SERP. What is a SERP? Search engine result per page. So .com, if your business has this ideal of becoming a global business. If you have this idea in your heart and it's telling you, yeah, man, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to be expanding this operation to the United States, to Singapore, to Thailand. Good. Then go for a .com. All right? If your business is thinking about going global, so you want customers not just in Australia, but you want customers in different countries, then you have to select .com, because .com.au will give you results if you are in this country, if you are in Australia. All right? Now, if your new business, if your new business idea, if your new startup has been designed for or to fulfill a need of the Australian market or a want of the Australian market, then make sure that you have .com.au in your domain. All right. Now, if you need to buy a .com.au because you want the local market to be your market, then you need to have something that is called an ABN. And what is an ABN? Australian Business Number. So the Australian business number is required for you to buy a .com.au. If you don't have the ABN, you cannot buy the .com.au. However, obviously, if you are developing a company, you should have the ABN. So it shouldn't be a big deal for you to acquire the .com.au. All right. So far we have learned two things. So far in this class, in this free short class, School of Digital class, we have learned two things. Yeah, the first part, or the first thing that we have learned, is that for a brand to operate, for a brand to work in these modern times, in the times where things are digital, I don't need to explain this to you anyway. Look what is happening with education and work. Look, for a business to have a brand that operates in this digital environment, you need three things, all right? So first one is the brand name. Brand name. The brand name. Number two is the icon. the icon that represents that brand name to best advantage. You know, like if you think about McDonald's, for example, what is McDonald's? McDonald's has a brand name, which is, yes, of course, McDonald's. We all know that. We all know that. But also they have an icon. What is the McDonald's icon? It's the M, and that's it. So easy. So what they do, they put this M in a circle, and they put this in Facebook, in Instagram, in YouTube. So when you see this M, not the lone McDonald's, your brain associates that little graphic, because that's what it is. That icon is a graphic, it's no more than that, it's not a word. They associate that with the brand name, which is McDonald's. You need to make sure that you have that icon right. I'm going to explain you later on how to make it right. And number 3, we have learned that we need a slogan. And why we need a slogan? Because we need to tell a micro story that represents that brand to best advantage. We need that micro story. So that's why I'm telling you. You need to take this big song that you like, that represents who you are, what your company is, and you need to condense, to synthesize, to reduce that story to a micro story, which is a phrase, and that phrase is your slogan. I was telling, what is the slogan of McDonald's? Of McDonald's, just loving it. Loving it. That is the slogan, which means that you're enjoying it. That helps the brand. Now, as I say to you, as brands capture your imagination, as brands capture your psyches, as brands capture your hearts, eventually you can get rid of everything and just stick with the icon. That is amazing. That is for sure. That is for real. The icon, have a look at social media, is what represents your brand to best advantage nowadays. So that is something that we have learned so far. All right. Second thing that we have learned is that you need to make sure that once you have the brand name, you also need to have you need to make sure that that brand name is available in a website like GoDaddy. You have to make sure. If the brand name is available, what you do? You buy it. And that's it. Now it's yours. Now that brand is yours. You see, owning a brand nowadays is very different to what it was before internet times. If you own the domain name, you own the brand. It's yours. Yes, some people can steal your domain, but it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. You can defend that you are the owner of that domain name, believe me, because I have done it before. One of my domain names was Vesla. All right, so this is one of my I have 50, 60 domain names in my account because I love to buy and sell domains. So one of my domain names was Vesla. And the Internet Authority, they say to me, Santi, you know, why that domain name? Obviously, they like it because Vesla is very similar to Tesla. And obviously, I bought it because of the similarity between the two and the associated value to it. And then I say to them, yeah, that's my domain. And they say, why? I say, because Vela, without the S, is my last name. And the S itself, which is at the middle, is my name, Santi. So Vesla is Santi Vela. And they say, yeah, you're right. Don't worry, it's yours. So there are many, many different ways for you to prove that a domain name is yours. And that you have, I mean, on paper it's yours, but there is always the potentiality of a dispute. All right, so make sure that in GoDaddy, that Vesla is available. When I thought about it, I went to GoDaddy and it was available. Again, what is really important? That you also decide if your domain name is .com or .com.au. .com.au, if your market is Australia. If your market is Australia. .com, if your market is the entire globe. Now, you may say, oh, of course, so then I will go for .com. Yes, you always go for .com. However, your website, the one that people see, may have the .com.au because your market is Australia. But always, of course, try to protect the .com. That is the domain that carries more value because it's a global domain. So the exercise is simple. Go to GoDaddy or Crazy Domains of one of those and buy the domain names that are associated with that brand name that you have just selected. .com, global, .com.au, local, buy both of them. To be honest, if .com is not available, I may think in changing that brand name as well. All right, guys, so fantastic. So far, we're going so good with the live streaming. Now, let's talk about the icon. What is important for that icon? So, some icons that you may recall. All right, let's talk about some icons that you may recall. One of them. All right, of course, the icon from Spotify. All right, so if you think about the icon from Spotify, it's very simple. It's this plus this, yeah, plus this, and then you put a circle on it. That is the Spotify icon. Yeah, that you put some green around and this and that. Yes, of course. Yes, but that is the Spotify icon. Now, let's think about this icon. How many elements you see there? Forget about the circle because the circle is just a container. So forget about it. And you tell me how many elements, how many graphic elements you see there. Well, here is 1, here is 2, here is 3. And that is the rule. That is the rule, guys. If you want to develop an icon that makes any sense in these COVID-19 times, that help people to remember what is your brand all about, make sure that your icon only has maximum 3 elements. I'm going to repeat this. Maximum 3 elements. All right, let's talk about another brand icon, like for example, the icon from McDonald's. All right, so you think about the McDonald's icon. How many elements there? 1. 1 element. Easy to do. I can do it 1,000 times. Because it's so easy, and that's why it's so good. And that's why it's so good. So that icon is 1 element. All right, another icon that is really good. Remember, we don't need logos anymore. Starbucks is so lucky because they were the first in that industry, and that's why people get to know them, and because the brand name is really good, of course. But the icon, the logo, is not good at all. Right now, with that brand icon, they will not be able to survive. It's just too complicated. It's too much. Probably you don't even remember. Another way to do this, if you can draw an icon, if you can remember it and draw it, is because that is such a good icon, you know? So if you think about Adidas, 3 elements in the shoe. Easy, isn't it? 3 elements. If you think about a company like, I don't know, like for example, SOT, School of Digital. 3 elements, 1, 2, 3. Easy to remember. If you think about a company like, for example, I don't know, Apple. One element. So easy. That's how it gotta be. It has to be extremely simple so people can remember it. You know, the Nike icon that we were talking about. 1 element. So my advice to you in this very class is whatever is your icon that represents your brand, you need to make sure that it has maximum 3 elements. Don't forget this. believe me, it's going to work pretty good for you. And have a look at this. I was just, let me see if I have it here. All right. So this particular logo icon is fantastic. It's just one element, and you know what this logo represents. Beats by Dr. Dre. So make sure that you do something like this. And what is this icon? It's just this. That's it. Now, of course, they make it a little bit more beautiful, so it's just like this. All right, but that is one element, not two, not three. So my advice to you, maximum, use 3 elements. All right. Okay, guys. So that is all. That is all about selecting the branding for your startup. All right. Now, I just want to move a little bit away from the technical component of branding, to discuss to you something that is super critical. It's very important that it's you, the person that developed that brand. I'm going to repeat it. It's very important that it's you, the person that develops that brand. You do not need a graphic designer to develop the brand for you. You don't. You do not need a graphic designer at all to help you with the branding for your startup. I'm going to repeat it one more time because I know that people sometimes forget about this. I have been with a lot of students who have been forgetting this constantly, and I don't know why. You do not need a graphic designer to do the icon for you, the branding for you. This is not about art. Branding is not about beautiful arty things. No, graphic design, a poster, a painting, all right, yes, of course. Get someone who knows how to do that. But this is not about art. Icons, branding is not about like or dislike. It's about emotion. It's about engagement. It's about attachment. It's not about like or dislike. That's why, I see a lot of my students starting with a really good idea in terms of branding. And you know what they do? Some of you, you go and you ask your friend, hey, do you like my icon? And then your friend will go like, oh, I don't like it. And then you are, oh, he doesn't like it, she doesn't like it. I will change it. Bad idea. Bad idea. Because you asked the wrong question. You say, hey, do you like it? And brand is not about like. It's about emotion. It's about engagement. It's about attachment. So what you need to say is, hey, my friend, I need to find out if you can be somehow attached to this icon, so I need to do a test. And what is the test that you do? You present that icon to that person in a piece of paper. You say, all right, so this is the icon. This is the icon of my brand. And then you say to your friend, can you replicate it? And your friend will go, oh, this fast? And you will go, yes, because that will let me know if my branding is good or not. And then your friend will go, all right, but it's going to look horrible. And you go, it doesn't matter, because it's not about like or dislike, remember? It's about emotion, it's about engagement, it's about attachment. So what you do, you go and you try, let me just share my whiteboard, and then you say, all right, so your friend presents this to you, and then you go and say, all right, cool. So yeah, it was like a kind of triangle like this. It was like a triangle like this, and then it was like an S. Like this. And then you will go, yeah, man, it was something like this. And then you will go, yes, it was like that. And that is a good icon. So how many elements you have in this Superman icon? You have 2. You have the triangle, and you have the S2. Fantastic, fantastic icon. Why? Because you were able to reproduce, to replicate that image on a piece of paper. And that's how you need to develop your icon. The only thing that you need to do is to grab a piece of paper or a whiteboard like this one and to start developing your logo, your icon. So if your name is Christian, for example, it's not that I know any Christian. No, I'm kidding, I know one. But if your name is Christian and your last name is, I don't know, Christian Brochley, which is one of my students, so the icon should be something like this. And that's it. You don't need to overcomplicate what is already there. What will happen with that? My student name is Christian, and the last name is Brochley. So this is the brand name, and this is the icon if he wants to run a consultancy firm. So this is the brand name, this is that simple. Why? Because people, if you show people this, guess what will happen? People will remember it, and people will be able to replicate it if they need to, as many times as you want. And it's going to be always the same. So it works. It just works as an icon when you have something this simple. Don't do the opposite. Don't overcomplicate the icon, for God's sake. It's so important to be complex. Needs to be simple. Needs to be flat. Needs to be flat. Forget about shadows. Forget about graphic effects. You don't need that in branding anymore. All right, guys. So that's all, guys. I just want to thank you for this very first time that we are sharing this knowledge in this live streaming. And please stay tuned, because I will be doing one of these classes every single day, Monday to Friday, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So stay tuned, and please follow School of Digital in Facebook. Also in YouTube, we have developed our YouTube channel yesterday. So please start following us in YouTube, and you will find a lot of content there. Content about branding, content about business planning, content about customer relationship management systems, content about content management systems like WordPress, content about how to develop your MVP, your minimum viable product, content about why I don't like market research, for example, why I don't like market research, seriously, content about how to launch your first business, content about how to find what is your target market. So I'll be talking about all these things as I advance, guys, and please stay tuned, because I reckon for entrepreneurs, this kind of content is critical. You don't want to make mistakes, not if you can avoid them. It's not that I am against mistakes, no at all. Mistakes are part of the entrepreneurial journey. It is okay to fail. I repeat, it is okay to fail. What is not okay is to fail if you can avoid it. That's just not okay. If you fail because you just didn't want to do a process that is proven to work, then that is your fault and you should be accountable for it. But failing because something was unexpected, that's a different story. So please stay tuned, because I promise this to you guys. I will be sharing 15 years work experience as a teacher here in Australia in these live stream classes. So stay tuned, and I see you tomorrow. Bye for now.